Salute to the Thief. Junayd of Baghdad was passing the scene of a public hanging, where a thief was on the scaffold. Junayd bowed towards the criminal. Someone asked him, "Why did you do that?" Junayd said, "I was bowing before his single-mindedness. For his aim, that man has given his life." Show a man too many camel's bones, or show them to him too often, and he will not be able to recognize a camel when he comes across a live one. Mirza Ahsan of Tabriz. Headquarters, Earth. Do not tell your secrets to everyone in this headquarters, Earth. We have surveyed it well. There was nobody to whom to entrust secrets. Anwar-e-Suhaili. The Critic. A number of disciples incessantly sang the praises of a certain Sufi teacher. One day they surrounded the dwelling of a dervish who had criticized him. They said, "You have attacked and calumniated our teacher. We demand that you retract what you have said." He answered, "How trivial and shallow is the reasoning of the raw. Return to your master and ask him to tell you why Arif Yahya criticizes him, for you should have done that before coming here, one exciting the other like a pack of wolves, intent only on destruction." The disciples retreated. When they found a suitable opportunity to talk to Si Mandub, their mentor, he said, "Arif Yahya opposes me so that the shallow-minded shall be influenced away from me. In this manner he and I work together, and I am left with more peace to carry on with my undertakings." The mine is always bigger than the gem. Proverb. The materials of the locality. Ibn Aswad visited the tekia of Sheikh Halim Unwani in Syria and was much impressed by the extent and dignity of the place, the numbers of servants, and the plenitude of disciples. Sheikh Halim was, however, absent, and Aswad followed him to North Africa, where he had settled for a number of years to spread the teaching there. In Morocco he found Halim living in a small house, with a mere shed outside for the exercises. His pupils numbered no more than a handful, and his clothes were of the simplest kind. Aswad was perplexed, and taking Halim's closest associate, Mustafa Mahjoub, aside, he asked him, "Why does the sheikh not bring people and wealth from Aleppo and Damascus, and show these people of Africa that he is a man of substance? Why does he not bring droves of disciples from the East, and carpets and workmen, and make a fitting audience hall?" Mahjoub laughed, and then he said, "Our gold is not the same as their gold, as our tongue sounds different from their tongue. Do you not see how our sheikh talks and dresses like a man of the locality? The crops of the locality, the houses of the locality, come from the materials of the locality. Better to quarrel with a friend than to support enemies." Proverb. The strange becomes commonplace. A scholar asked the great sage Afzal of Iskandaria, "What can you tell me of Alim Azimi, your teacher, to whom you attribute qualities which have fashioned you?" Afzal answered, "His poetry intoxicated me, and his love of mankind suffused me, and his self-sacrificing services elated me." The scholar said, "Such a man would indeed be able to fashion angels." Afzal continued, "Those are the qualities which would have recommended Alim to you. Now for the qualities which enabled him to help men transcend the ordinary. Hazrat Alim Azimi made me irritated, which caused me to examine my irritation to trace its source. Alim Azimi made me angry, so that I could feel and transform my anger. Alim Azimi allowed himself to be attacked so that people could see the bestiality of his attackers and not join with them. He showed us the strange, so that the strange became commonplace, and we could realize what it really is. Whoever has not first dug a well should not steal a minaret. Proverb. Invisible service. Ajnabi used to give away books, saying, "I have finished with this. Perhaps you would like it." He also gave food to people, saying, "I am not hungry. Would you like to eat?" His companion Husseini once said to him, "You never allow people to perceive what you are doing for them. They think they are getting something which is of no use to you, therefore they do not prize it." Ajnabi said, "I do not expect them to prize it. In fact, I do not want them to prize it. I want them to benefit, not to adulate." Husseini records, Ajnabi gave his teachings in the same way too. Nobody ever knew what they were learning, because he made them possessors of learning in a manner which prevented them from prizing learning. They generally thought that they were taking part in some completely irrelevant activity. Ajnabi used to say, "That portion of learning which people prize is precisely that part which is not doing them any good, like a sweetmeat which is admired but not eaten." None meets harm who knows his capacity. Proverb. Dismissed. Anwar of Badakhshan was perplexed when he visited Aleppo and found, as Maulana Bahuddin's representative there, a man whom the Maulana had dismissed from his presence several years before. Anwar, when he returned to Bokhara, asked the Maulana how it could be that someone who had been the target of the teacher's wrath could find eventual acceptance in such a high position. The Maulana said, "The wind blows floating seeds and makes them fly to wherever they may flourish if the possibility exists. To the outward observer, the wind may appear hostile to the seeds. But what, in such an instance, is the function of the wind, if it is not to provide the impetus which the seeds need? If you are covetous, you are not a prisoner. If you are greedy, you will never be filled." Proverb. Four communities. A Sufi master on a journey saw a number of people struggling to haul a crocodile out of a river. Seeing that the animal was not dead, and could kill some of them if they got it on shore, he cut the rope which they had attached to it. The people seized him and beat him, crying, "Dressed like a Sufi, he is a hypocrite as well as a wrongdoer, for Sufis only do what is good." Some time later he came upon a group of dervishes who thought that by action they would attain being. He told them that their being would come through inaction. They put him to flight. Subsequently he settled among a school of seekers who were contemplatives. He realized that they needed action, so he told them, "Being comes through action." They followed his guidance until one of the dervishes happened to call upon a friend, after which he came back and told them, "This man is a fraud and an opportunist. He used to preach being comes from inaction and was thrown out for it, so he tries the opposite argument." So the seekers expelled the Sufi master. He found another group of people and said to them, "Being comes sometimes from action and sometimes from inaction." They answered, "If you had only told us to act when it was time to act, we would have done so. And if you had told us not to act when it was time for inaction, we would have done so. As it is, you are confusing us, dividing our concentration. Give us one dogma at a time." he had to part company with them. These were the first 4 communities with which he worked. It is rumoured that he is now living in a 5th. No surgeon can treat the wounds of the tongue. Proverb. Kindness. This is a time when, because of excessive wrongs, it is impossible to be safe in life and goods. Of whom can we think well when it is believed that if nothing bad is done to you, this has been a kindness? Anwar-e Suhaili. Accumulated supplications. It was an established custom in a certain place for people to visit a shrine and to pray there for good fortune. They gave a small offering to the dervish who looked after the place, towards his upkeep and for charity. After many years of this tradition, whose very origin had by then been forgotten, a really needy man arrived. But he asked for nothing. At the moment of his arrival, a charitable individual came upon him. The charitable man said, "I have made a vow to give away all my money at this place to the first person I meet." He bestowed every penny of his wealth upon the truly needy man. One of the disciples of the dervish asked the inner meaning of this transaction. The dervish, full of wisdom, told him, "The accumulated supplications were waiting for a needy man who did not ask. As soon as he appeared, the right aspirations operated, and the prayers were able to take a true effect." "But the people believe that the shrine itself brings them good fortune," objected a bystander. "It brings good fortune to those worthy of it. The unworthy attribute their luck to having been at the shrine, but attribution is often different from origin." Opinion and fact. A great teacher who knew the way to wisdom was visited by a group of seekers. They found him in his courtyard, surrounded by disciples, in the midst of revels. Some of the observers said, "How obnoxious! This is no way to behave, whatever the pretext." Others said, "This seems to us excellent. We like this kind of teaching and wish to take part in it." Yet others said, "We are partly perplexed and wish to know more about this puzzle." The rest said to one another, "There may be some wisdom in this, but whether we should ask about it or not, we do not know." The teacher sent them all away. And these people all spread, in conversation and in writing, their opinions of the occasion. Even those who did not allude to their experience directly were affected by it, and their speech and even actions reflected their feelings about it. Some time later, certain members of this party again passed that way. They called upon the teacher. They stood at his door, observing that within the courtyard he and his students now sat, decorously, deep in contemplation. "This is better," said some of the visitors, "for he has learned from our protests." "This is excellent," said others. "The last time he was undoubtedly only testing us." "This is too sombre," said others. "Surely we can find long faces anywhere." And there were other opinions, spoken and otherwise. The great sage, when the time of reflection was over, sent all these visitors away. Much later, a small number returned and sought his interpretation of what they had experienced. They presented themselves at the gate and looked into the courtyard. The teacher sat there alone, neither revelling nor in meditation. His former disciples were nowhere to be seen. "You may now hear the whole story," he said, "for I have been able to dismiss my disciples. The task is done. When you first came here, that class of mine had been too serious, I was in the process of applying the corrective. The second time you came, they had been too gay. I was applying the corrective. When a man is working, he does not always explain himself to casual visitors, however interested the visitors may think themselves to be. When an action is in progress, what counts is the correct operation of that action. Under these circumstances, external evaluation becomes a secondary concern. What people may imagine about something is more descriptive of themselves than of the situation. Rust. Rust, through washing, never became white. Anwar-e Suhaili.